Mafia The Old Country is a brand new prequel to the Mafia trilogy and an interesting release in that regard, as it's not this big budget full price AAA game, but a smaller budget $50 release, and on top of that, it makes the pivot from open world. So I was interested in Mafia The Old Country, and I'm happy to report that it is well worth playing. But let's talk about it. Hi guys, DPX here reviewing today, Mafia The Old Country. But before we get started, you know what to do. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell, and leave a comment, or I'll put out a hit on you.
You tell your boss, my boy is under my protection. And if our truce is dishonored again, I will repay that offense.
Starting off with the good, I don't usually start with this, but this is something that the Mafia games are kind of known for, and that's the story. Mafia The Old Country is a prequel after all, so the story is rather important, at least like the timeline. But we follow the story of Enzo, who lives a difficult life before being taken in by Don Bernardo Torrisi. And as the years go by, Enzo does certain tasks and errands for the Don, and things go from there. This story is rather simple, but it's effective and very compelling, with cool dynamics throughout the game and certain things happening where you really wonder how things will go when this person finds out about this thing. You know, I am being very vague to avoid spoilers, but if you play the game and know the story, you'll know what I'm trying to say. The performances in the game are also spectacular. Everyone is very convincing and compelling in their own ways, but the standout has to be Johnny Santiago for his performance as Don Torrisi. When this character shows up, he brings a presence that no other character in this game has, and that is largely in part due to Santiago's performance. Like, I can very much see him getting a Best Performance nomination this year. This game's story also takes place over the span of a number of years, and one detail I liked is how Enzo's appearance constantly changes. It sounds like a no-brainer, and you're probably also thinking, yeah, of course he's gonna look different as time goes on. And your point being, but I feel like most games wouldn't include that much attention to detail, which is why I'm pointing it out. And when the cutscenes play, the game just feels cinematic. Mafia The Old Country gives off a similar cinematic vibe that many PlayStation games like The Last of Us or God of War give off. I'm not saying this game is better than those two, but it gives off very similar cinematic vibes is what I'm saying. But then there is the gameplay. Mafia The Old Country is a stealth action game, in that it has many stealth sections and action sections. The stealth sections are cool, although I don't have much to say about them. You can do takedowns and even from a distance throw knives at someone, which is neat, but other than that, it is about the same sort of, you know, stealth mechanics you would expect. And the action in the game isn't anything too crazy either. There are sections where you are in a shootout and you use your gun to shoot, obviously. You can also pick up other guns lying around, but there aren't too many options there. It's basically you got your own gun, and all these other guns you can select are all the same, but it's still better than the one you have. That was a bit odd for me, but doesn't bother me that much to where it's not even in the bad or even the mixed. But then there are, I guess you can call them boss fights? That sounds mean, but I said it like that because Mafia The Old Country's boss fights are not really your typical flashy boss fights. It's always a knife fight, which I found a little strange, but they did the job. Overall, the action elements in Mafia The Old Country, while nothing earth-shadowing, were really cool. But then there's gameplay where you are not in action sections or stealth sections, but rather traveling somewhere on either your horse or a car. And I normally wouldn't bring this stuff up because it's not too important, but they added an option to skip the ride, which I thought was kind of cool. I didn't use it too much, but I think it's interesting that it's there in the first place. I also gotta talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to this game in particular, and that's Mafia The Old Country is not an open world game. The reason why it's important to note here is because Mafia typically is an open world game. I look at it as it's almost like if GTA took place in like the 30s or the 40s. But in a rare move for video games nowadays, Mafia actually makes the pivot away from open world, which to be fair, Mafia never really did the open world game too well. Not terrible, but it did sort of just blend in a bit despite what I said earlier. But also, in a weird way, not being open world, I think actually helps The Old Country stand on its own a bit. It's a smaller scale prequel to the trilogy, and it feels that way, and I don't mean that disparagingly. I think for the game we got, it's perfectly fine without an open world. Plus, I'm not so sure how well it would have worked if it was implemented. The visuals are also great. There are some weird animations in the cutscenes, but other than that, probably one of the better looking games of the year. And lastly, the score. Mafia The Old Country nails the score and music, as it gives off the proper vibes needed for this game. Moving on to the things I'm more mixed on. In the case of this game, these are aspects that I feel I can go either way on. Maybe they are issues not terribly offensive or anything like that. Maybe there is some good to them. I don't know. Let me explain. First off is something I noticed spliced a little bit throughout the game, and that's what I like to call filler gameplay. What I mean is, for example, like at the very beginning of the game, there is a moment where you have to take boxes of alcohol and place them into the back of a cart. The weird thing is, it makes you go to the box, pick it up, then go to the cart, place it down, rinse and repeat. Or times where you have to search boxes for information on something, but the game gives you waypoints to multiple boxes, when only one of them is the actual box you need to find in order to progress, if that makes sense. It's not like it's terrible or anything like that. And you might even look at this as me complaining about something that doesn't matter, but it does feel like it's only there to pad out the runtime of the game, even if it does so by just like a few seconds. And the other thing I'm mixed on is the final chapter. To be clear, I thought the story was really solid for the most part, until we get to the final chapter. Not that it's bad, and the ending comes together nicely after all, but the shit that goes down in the final chapter feels pretty rushed, and certain things that happen are certainly expected, but don't entirely feel earned. It's not terrible, but it is noticeably rushed and sudden in comparison to the rest of the story.
I'll get the goods shifted. You'll have the money tomorrow.
Bring it when you can. The Don knows you're good for it. See you around, Leo.
Moving on to the bad, there are some things to mention. One is there are some technical issues I ran into. Specifically, there's a lot of popping throughout the game, and there's like some weird animations in the cutscenes. And then the game also once crashed on me. Only once, but my rule is if it happens at all, I'm gonna mention it and I'm gonna put it in the bad. And the other big issue I have is that you can drive cars and ride horses to travel places, as I mentioned, but there are also mandatory sections where you race. One where you race on a horse and one where you race in a car. Additionally, there are chase sequences where you use the car as opposed to the horse. But those dragged and dragged and dragged for me. They honestly just were not fun.
It's on you, Captain.
Overall, I really enjoyed Mafia The Old Country. It is a nice and pleasant departure from the big open world GTA-like that the Mafia trilogy of games are. It has a compelling story, great performances, enticing action and stealth gameplay, and simply put, I think we need more smaller scale yet prestigious and impactful games like this. A smaller budget $50 title, Claire Obscure did it, and Mafia joins it, and I think that's to its benefit. In the end, I give Mafia The Old Country an 8.5 out of 10. Maybe come back to me in a little bit and I'll think it's a 9, and I'll maybe think it's like among one of the best games of the year. I feel like it doesn't do anything too crazy, like amazing, but what it is trying to do, it does very well. But that's my thoughts. What do you guys think? Do you guys like the game, not like the game? Have you guys played it? Have you not played it? And if you haven't played it, do you guys want to play it, not want to play it? Anything about Mafia The Old Country, let me know down below. Anyways, be sure to like the video, come subscribe, or I will put out a hit on you.